Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Monday morning market review with GoPro Trading and yours truly, Ian Giffen. So this is our first market review in almost 2 months where we no longer focusing on the challenge, which was wrapped up on Friday. I hope you guys finished off well. I'm sure you'll see from today's analysis that there was certainly quite a lot of opportunity to end the challenge strongly. It's a pity it didn't happen sooner, but that's just the way it is. So as a general theme, I think last week we saw quite a few of our trading instruments go from being pretty dead in the water for several weeks, as we know, to starting to move quite positively. Anyway, let's run through our instruments. What I'm going to be doing as well today is really just focusing on using this as a training session for you guys in terms of saying, right, where are we at? Are we first and foremost ranging or trending? And then we look at some of the sort of sub levels of that across the different time frames. So starting at the top as always with the Euro USD, it's still very much inside of our channel here on weekly. We don't expect this to change very often, but it's always good just to keep an eye on it. So last week we saw the end of that bullish run, even though we've got a higher high made last week. That's quite a strongly bearish candle, but it's not engulfing and it's not an impulse candle. So at the moment, it's just a weekly pullback. And of course, on our daily time frame, what we did see with that is effectively a distinct end of that bullish trend. We were treating it as a trend. Certainly, we'd had an opportunity to move our four-wave channel boundary to define this as a trend for some time. But we had a impulse wave followed by impulse wave, phase one, which, as you know very well, means that this trend has come to an end. In some of the more advanced training that we're going to be doing later in the year that we're busy working on at the moment, I'll be showing you how to actually use this effectively as a way of being able to say that the wave is over as well on the higher time frame. So single time frame analysis, this bullish wave is not yet over, but if you're using dual time frame analysis, it is. But in any case, that's something that's coming. We did manage to get an H4 into an H4 impulse here, which unfortunately just missed its take profit if you're using the ATR targeting. This does happen, folks. There's nothing we can do about it, but we were already at break even, so it cost us nothing to be in that trade. In any case, let's just focus on the analysis. So on daily time frame, this bullish trend is over, which, as you know, means that for now we're treating it as a ranging market. Moving on to cable, weekly time frame, flat as always, nothing doing here really. Another bearish candle there. And on the daily time frame, also got phase one, but we are deep inside of our channel here anyway. So still very much ranging, nothing for us to do there. It was a harmonic pattern, funnily enough. Dolly Yen, a little bit more interesting. We saw, as we mentioned a week ago, that this low had been isolated on the weekly time frame, which for us meant a resumption of this bullish trend on weekly, and this is what it looks like on daily. So we did have that bearish breakout beforehand as we spoke, but now last week we came straight back inside of these channels with this this dollar strength effectively exhibiting itself, putting us back inside of the channel over here. But remember, that needs to be looked at in the context of the higher time frame. So here on weekly, very much in a strong bullish trend. Yes, we did have 3 solid weeks of retracement, which is really what this bearish trend is over here on daily time frame. So if you're doing multi-time frame technical analysis, you do need to keep an eye on that. If it's single time frame analysis, it's fine. You know, that's not a big deal. Then we're just looking at this having been a false breakout with a bearish phase one followed by a bullish phase one, bringing it back inside of the range, but inside of the context of what we're looking at on the lower time frame. This has in fact been tradable, certainly for things like daily impulse and the hybrid strategies. Right, next up is dollar Swiss on weekly. No change here effectively from our analysis the previous week. very flat during the course of last week in terms of its close, but it did give us that bearish breakout during the course of the week, which in this case over here is obviously Swiss franc strength. But yeah, so we did in fact get a setup over here as well for lower time frame, but it didn't work out either. So I'm not sure if we managed to get to break even on that one though. However, it was a valid setup to short the markets last week, but it hasn't worked out. We've had, well, Friday's candle closed inside of the price territory of the previous phase 2, which, as you guys know, is a sign of weakness. So technically still trending here on daily, but it's a weak trend and nothing obviously on the weekly time frame. Dollar Cad, we've spoken about this quite a lot, and last week showed a very nice resumption, if you like, of this bearish trend. I spoke about this bearish engulfing candle a week ago. Might be worth your while just to go and have a look at last week's Monday morning market review as well, and just listen to what I'm saying today in the context of what we covered a week ago. Because we spoke then about what this meant, and certainly it did follow up quite satisfyingly, if you like. Didn't give us an entry for a daily impulse, unfortunately, because we haven't had a pullback. But that's been a very nicely tradable bearish phase 1, certainly with that initial break outside of our 4-wave channel being superbly tradable. And yeah, we certainly had 2 solid winning H4 impulse trades over here, and if you were trading the advanced targeting, that second one would have been very nice indeed. Right, so Aussie weekly time frame, nothing doing, still not interested in that at all. We just had some overlay action here last week with a double test during the course of last week off of that nice and firmly established resistance level, but very much ranging on both of those time frames. Similar picture here on the Kiwi, except that we did have a false breakout from that range last week. So bullish phase 1 followed by a bearish phase 1 with Friday's close. So absolutely a confirmation of a false breakout, if you like, a very quick confirmation. That bullish breakout potentially was, we were looking for an H4 impulse, but you can see that the final setup criteria was not met at all. So we didn't actually get any trades there, which is just as well, because it wouldn't have worked out. Right, Euro Yen, let me just go to weekly first. So we did have the previous, last week, in fact, we've now got that outside close. So from today, we are saying that this market is now in a potential trend. So we've only got one phase 1 so far outside of our preceding 4-wave channel. But yeah, potential trend here on weekly, dropping down to the daily time frame. Of course, that's what it looks like. We had that bullish breakout, and I think last week Wednesday is when we started looking for lower time frame trades over here, and we got quite a nice winner over there as well, managing to reach that take profits, unlike the euro dollar trade. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. Obviously Friday giving us that pullback, so you guys should know what to do with that when it comes to looking at the daily impulse, certainly. Moving on to Gbp Jpy, so we've still got what is effectively a weak trend here. We did get that higher high last week, so very, very weak, no question about it. We're not pretending that this is anything other than very weak, but the fact of the matter is, you know, just over a month ago, we did get that bullish breakout, but the sequentiality of cyclicity has not yet broken down in this time frame. However, that does not mean it's tradable, thanks to that weakness. And here on daily, that's pretty much what it looks like. So during the course of last week, we just got a nice little winner, I think last week Monday, on an overlay, but otherwise very much inside of both of the channels. Right, Swiss Yen, a little bit more action here again, looking at last week's close outside of the channel. So yet another breakout. A couple of the yen pairs looking quite nice, some of them not tradable at all, but this is one of the very tradable ones. So we had, as I say, we did have that breakout on weekly, which means that for this week, we can start looking to trade it on daily. And in fact, with that inside bar over here, it would be nice if we get a decent risk level for a daily impulse here, but the market is moving again quite strongly today, and it's still very early in the day. But if you're feeling frustrated about daily impulse, you can at least drop down to H4 impulse, and you should have done already from last week Wednesday, and a very nice easy win there last week Wednesday. And in fact, you should be looking to trade this. You should be in a trade here already from early this morning on H4 impulse. So you guys know what to do with that. Let me just quickly put this in there. Should look something like that. I'm just using approximations. So just to illustrate that for you, very nice little reward to risk ratio. So yeah, there you go. Definitely a lot more activity than we saw in almost a month before this happened. All of this action started last week. Cad Yen, another bullish breakout on weekly after having a failed test of that resistance level just over a month ago. So that's quite distinctive, if you like. And on, I think it was, Thursday, we got an outside close and a breakout there for here on daily as well. That is a trade that you should still, in fact, be in. And by now, well, certainly if we get another higher close now, you guys know what that means. You will be at break even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So this trailing stop level is still valid, but if we do get a higher close, then we'd be able to trail the stop to break even. So unless, of course, we need to take profit first for standard targeting. So I hope you guys can see that once we actually get the appropriate market conditions, it's making money in your trading is not that difficult. The trick is to stay out of the market when the conditions are not appropriate. Okay, so Aussie Yen, nothing doing here on weekly, flat as a pancake. And it tested that resistance level again last week, Thursday. Also gave us an overlay, which I think might have just hit take profit. I'd have to check the trading account for that. But in any case, it was a valid trade. But we are definitely inside a range on both timeframes. And final yen cross, we've got the weekly time frame on Kiwi Yen, where again, we're seeing some testing of this preceding resistance level over here, which if we were using the 3-wave channel, that would be, we'd have that bar in there, but being weekly, we only look at the 4-wave channel. But you can see visibly that this resistance level has been tested. Technically, this is still a trend. We had that breakout. It's still a strong trend, in fact, because this bearish retracement or corrective wave did not close inside of the channel, the previous phase 2's price territory. And we have not yet seen, on a single time frame point of view or analysis point of view, we haven't yet seen this bullish wave come to an end. So then dropping down to daily, where that very weak trend visible on weekly over most of this time period is visible. You can see that we've had a couple of breakouts. We've spoken about it before, but last week we did in fact get a breakout, I think, from our preceding channel. Certainly you can see this this candle on Wednesday was a breakout, but if I'm not very much mistaken, because I've updated the analysis now, the preceding channel boundary was here, which means the breakout candle was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, so Monday's candle broke outside of our 4-wave channel, which means that Tuesday we started looking at this to trade this on H4, and you can see that that was a nice little winner. But we then got another setup to go long on this, which actually got stopped out. So one winner, one loser, and you know how that works out, especially when you've got a 2-to-1 reward to risk ratio on your initial risk, and you win one, you lose one, you're nicely up, which is of course what convexity is all about. So that's the last of the yen crosses. Moving into our euro crosses now. Euro GBP on weekly, nothing doing, still very much inside of quite a deep channel. If you were using the LPO channel, then a slightly different story. You would have actually had a breakout some time ago. I only mention that now because somebody asked me about that last week. and that is absolutely correct. So, but I'm focusing here on our HTC channels. And through the course of last week on this pair, you can see it was completely flat. Nothing for us to do as well. Very short little choppy waves over here, and it doesn't look like that's changing at the moment either. So very happy not to be in that market. Euro Swiss, likewise, we're looking at this on weekly, nothing really doing here, but on daily, we have had this test of a support level last week on Friday, but it has so far respected that support level. So nothing doing for us there either. And again, my favorite trading pair, as you know. And here we have Euro Cad, looking at weekly first of all. We did have that close outside of our 4-wave channel here on weekly. So if you're a channel trader, you need to take that into account and start potentially looking for a pullback and a setup to short this on daily. But here on daily, you can see we are very much still inside of that. A few people have been asking me about this other trade that we looked at over here. It's really not so much relevant for this currency pair, but I'm going to show you the equivalent setup, which actually was visible in the analysis last week. And I've had a few queries about that. But for those of you who are new to GoPro's trading strategies, please don't allow yourself to be distracted by some of our discussions on some of the variations of what we do. Right, so here's Euro Aussie on weekly, absolutely flat, nothing doing for well, a couple of months now, basically, after we saw the end of that bearish movement. And that's reflected by the fact that here on daily, we are very much inside of all of our channels, barely even testing our historical channel boundaries. So absolutely nothing for us to do there. And similar picture here on Euro New Zealand dollar. So that's it on weekly and that's it on daily. Yes, we've had more of a testing of the support level, but absolutely flat now for basically 3 weeks. So good market to stay out of, certainly for core strategies. Gbp Swiss, we saw that reversal pattern about a month ago, and that reversal effectively was confirmed with a bearish phase 1 candle and wave at last week's close. Now, we can't really do anything with that on weekly, but looking at it here on daily, it was represented by that bearish breakout here on Friday, effectively, where we closed outside. Nothing much happening today, but as I say, it is still early in the day. Let's keep an eye on that. But with that bearish breakout from this morning, potentially we could have been starting to look for an H4 setup, but it's still very much in its pullback. So we haven't done anything there as yet. So yeah, that's the most important stuff I wanted to talk about there. I just wanted to point out another reason why I've got a trade showing there is on the pattern, the heuristic pattern. So this is a valid M pattern. And absolutely, if you're trading M patterns, then you should start looking for a daily impulse here. And yeah, the hybrid strategy obviously gave us a setup with a preceding week's high test, bearish high test candle. And with that breakdown and sequentiality of cyclicity over here, gave us a setup to short the market on Thursday, open of Thursday's trading. So that's one that you'd be in if you were using that. But for those of you who are still relatively new and going through all the standard material, please don't allow yourself to be distracted by that. Mina's just asking me to go back to Euro GBP. May well be the case. I haven't been focusing on the WM patterns. So Mina's point is that this is a valid W pattern to go long. So we, in this bearish retracement, such as it was, we did not get a close inside the preceding wave. So quite right, Mina, that is a valid W pattern. It is also a valid breakout of the LPO channel. Having said that, here on daily, we haven't had a single, well, our final setup criteria has not obviously been met, but you're absolutely right. So using LPO or the WM patterns, we are technically back into a bullish trend here on weekly. Thank you for that. sometimes difficult to keep up with what everybody's doing with our different techniques. Right, so where was I? Let's just make sure we go through these. We've done that. Oh yes, okay. So now moving on to GBP Cad, nothing doing there, deep inside the channel, no valid WM pattern on weekly time frame, but that strong bearish impulse candle on weekly time frame looks like this on daily, where we did get a breakout. So that obviously with the breakout on Thursday meant that on Friday we were able to look for a bearish H4 impulse, which we got and hit take profit quite nicely before the end of the day. So as I say, there were plenty of nice setups in the last couple of days of last week to allow you to finish the challenge quite strongly. GBP Aussie, nothing doing. We had an overlay which got stopped out for a small loss, but certainly nothing for us in core strategy. So very much inside ranging on both of those. And GBP Nzd, we've spoken about this before, obviously on weekly. Technically, we're still in that bullish trend, albeit very weak. So it's testing the support level here, which is the support found at the end of that preceding phase 2 wave. We might well see this low isolated today. Either way, if this does come up during the course of, well, not today, I beg your pardon, this week. If during the course of this week we do get a bullish outside close, then next week we can start looking at that, but we'll talk about that in a week's time. And of course, here you can see that support level on daily being nicely respected. And here we had a nice winning overlay. So you can see the overlay, you win some, you lose some. And it's really there just to help us to increase convexity at the account level. Right, moving on to the other crosses. Here's an example of a valid channel and WM pattern. And for those of us who were having a chat about the hybrid type strategies, we obviously, and you would have probably noticed this already in last week's analysis, where we had that low test and we had the breakdown of cyclicity here on the daily time frame, which gave us a setup to go long quite early on. And we are now at break even, obviously using our 2 5-step rule on Friday. So this trade is at break even. It's not moving that rapidly in the direction of our take profit. We did have a winning overlay on that as well, which is quite nice. Sometimes it does work out that way. Yeah, so this is certainly now, with this low being isolated, valid for you guys who are trading daily impulse to start looking for another pullback and to go long on that one. Very much trending on weekly, but not yet on daily. All right, Aussie Swiss, again, look at this one, flat on weekly, nothing for us to do. Technically still in a bearish wave with 2 weeks now. These are both inside candles, both inside the dimensions for the price territory of that candle there. So yeah, technically that is just nothing really for us to do. And you can see that this over here on daily, really, it's just a descending flag with the support level remaining intact. So again, nothing of interest for us. Aussie Cad, weekly time frame inside of the channel, but again, another valid M pattern. So that was something, again, that some of us were discussing already a week ago. So during the course of last week, there was a nice setup to short this as well for a hybrid. But it's only now really that we can start looking at that for daily impulse. Right, just a sip of water there. Friday, however, where we hit what technical take profits on this hybrid trade, although most of the time we use the advanced targeting for something like this, also means that we did get a breakout on daily. So that means that we can start looking at what's going to happen today. As I've mentioned, though, it's still very early in the day. But we are in the midst of a pullback here on the 4-hour time frame. One to definitely keep an eye on for those of you who are trading the intraday time frames. Aussie Kiwi, yeah, we spoke a week ago about how this pulled back inside of our channel anyway. So technically still a trend, but a weak trend. We have not yet had a breakdown in sequentiality of cyclicity. So it's we don't yet know if it'll be a false breakout. It hasn't yet proven itself to be, and we don't second guess the market. So that's what it looks like on weekly. Nothing for us to do there. And here on daily, however, we did have a breakout on Wednesday, close outside, and we started looking for a lower time frame trade here on H4, which we got, and we got almost immediately stopped out of that one. Trailed the stop slightly, but definitely didn't work out. So that's one of the successful trades from last week. Aussie Kiwi definitely not really having been our friend now for some time, apart from a few overlays, basically, and that's about it. Right, looking at our last two Kiwi crosses, Kiwi Swiss flat again, nothing doing here. We actually got stopped out on an overlay on the weekly time frame during the course of last week. So yeah, very little happening. And here you can see on daily time frame, very much inside of our 4-wave channel, let alone 3-wave channel, and not even testing the boundaries of that. So that one has been pretty dead for quite some time across the board. Kiwi Cad, on the other hand, a valid M pattern. Yeah, so again, another one. We had quite a nice. It went straight to take profit actually on this with the overlay, but another example of where you could have taken an overlay. You guys can still see my historical drawings, and if you go back to the previous Monday morning market review, you will see that in there. And now we've been able to draw in the real waves. So remember, I don't pretend to be somebody who can predict the market. I don't need to. I'm perfectly profitable without that. Nevertheless, this hybrid was great. If you were using standard targeting, it hit take profit on Friday. But as I say, we generally use the advanced targeting for that type of trade. Right, so that's it now for our currency pairs. Muna's asking on Aussie Cad for me just to go back and have a look at that. Sorry, I'm just getting a little bit lost there. Right, Aussie Cad. Can I explain the early entry of D1 trade last week? That's that I mentioned. This is a hybrid strategy for those of you who've been following my training, probably now, especially you, but for several years. We talk about how to determine the end of a wave so that we can therefore make an assumption that the next wave has started. And if you're in a trend, we know that a trend is defined as an intact sequence of phase 1 and phase 2 waves. Therefore, if the phase 2 wave has come to an end, we can assume that the next phase 1 has started. Now, there's several ways of doing that. And for those of you who are new to GoPro Trading Academy, who are still going through the basic material, please don't allow yourself to be distracted by this. Stay focused. You're on a pathway, a learning path. But the Monday morning market review has people of all sorts of levels of development, and I just don't want you newcomers to become confused. But if you are using multi-time frame analysis to answer that question, Muna, then obviously if we see a breakdown in sequentiality of a trend on the lower time frame that represents the wave on the higher time frame, even though single time frame analysis doesn't show that it's come to an end, the multi-time frame analysis can do that. So to illustrate that, here we have a bullish phase 2 wave. The preceding week, we had that high test candle. It was represented during the course of that week with a breakdown in sequentiality of cyclicity. So it was intact over here. We see that cyclicity remaining intact until we had phase 1, phase 1. We then need to see a further reversal. So phase 2, and then we look for that bearish impulse candle. And as you can see, that's exactly where we got in. So if you recall my training as well that you were on a couple of years ago, Muna, which was all about the Elliott wave theory, it's pretty much exactly that kind of stuff, looking to catch wave 3 in the 5-wave pattern. So again, folks, those of you who knew, please don't get distracted by that. Hope that helps, Muna. So Dita's asking to clarify, the 4th wave remains standard when updating as the market goes forward on daily impulse. Correct. So for impulse strategies, we use the 4-wave channel. So the 3rd last completed wave, which is the 4th last wave, including the current incomplete wave. Absolutely right. Any other questions, folks? Cool.